Right, let's get into our first topic. Should we raise the price of cigarettes to stop people from smoking? Get your calls in now. As I just mentioned, 28 billion cigarettes are smoked in Britain each year, according to new research. Just 12% of adults smoke, fewer than ever before. But the average smoker still gets through 528 cigarettes a year. And if current trends continue, Cancer Research UK has warned the government could miss its 2030 target for making England smoke-free by nearly a decade. Now, at the end of last year, the average price of a 20 king-size pack of cigarettes was around £16.50. That's mostly due to tobacco taxes, which are rising even further in October next year. But do we need to make smoking so expensive that no one wants to do it? Geoff, you feel like your face says it all. Tell me what you think. Should we make smoking outrageously expensive? Is that going to put people off?
First up, already is, and it hasn't. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I hate smoking. Bizarre habit. When we were kids, me and my sister, we grew up in the age where all the adults smoked and we were like little activists. Me and my sister would empty the ashtray into my parents' bed, but not while it was still lit, right? So I really hate it, but equally, already 80% taxed, already incredibly expensive. The curve is going down. 11% of the population smoke. The numbers you talk about sound quite arresting in a macro scale, but if you boil it down, you're talking about 1.5 cigarettes per person. It's a terrible, terrible habit. But what I think we have is a generation of legacy smokers that are going down, and let's be honest, also contribute massive tax revenues. 8.1 billion. The Labour Party can't even find savings of £1 billion at the moment. So I just think it's a terrible thing. But I think we need to be very careful, because what will eventually happen is the contraband market for it would only grow.
Yasmin, do you think people should be allowed to spend their money how they would like? It's one of those pleasures. Maybe it's okay. We're allowed to eat sweets. We're allowed to drink alcohol.
No. And there is an argument to be made on alcohol as well. It's not just I love smoking, because the cost to the National Health Service, the cost to families, the cost. Look, I've never smoked in my life, but I was telling Geoff, because I just remembered, when my first marriage broke up in a very painful way, I suddenly took up cigarettes.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
So I was 38.
Yes. And you'd never smoked before?
Never smoked in my life.
And when you had your first cigarette?
I was mad. I was actually insane. I went and bought my first box of cigarettes, and also had my first drink of brandy. And for about 3 months, I was this creature spending stupid.
Like
I didn't even know how to smoke properly. And I realized this is crazy. And I met my second husband 4 months later, and he said, I won't go out with you unless you just throw those cigarettes away, because you're smelling. And that was the end of it. But what I'm saying is, it's an addiction. It affects the health of those people. And I think, from what I observe, I haven't checked this, more young women seem to be smoking in public spaces that I've seen.
Vaping is surely where we should be putting our attention. People vape, and they vape compulsively
as well.
Yeah,
that's true.
The problem is that the statistics for smoking are defined, and it costs the wider economy £17 billion a year. So whilst vaping obviously has its controversy, actually smoking is categorically
with the current generation
factual.
of smokers, you have to manage that situation out. I don't think we can realistically. It's not fair as well. Like, for something to be taxed at more than 80% is an absolutely absurd
But you said
figure.
earlier, you said that, of course, the rate of smoking is declining because they're expensive. Why not just speed that up?
Yeah.
By making it so, maybe £30 a pack. How many people would smoke if a cigarettes were
Well, but they
£30?
would. But that's the point, isn't it? We've already made them expensive. And if you live in the world I live in, a lot of people aren't paying the 20 quid, are they? People are finding other means by which to get cigarettes. So all it will do is it'll accelerate that market. We'll get less tax revenue to the exchequer. We'll probably have more tax rises.
I don't believe there's such a big. It's not like drugs. There isn't such a.
Yeah, so I have to fund them.
Sure
I can't throw anyone under a bus here, but trust me, it exists. It's not something I'm part of.
Smoking is really bad for the person, for families, for family incomes, and for the NHS. And we should do whatever we can to really put an end to it.
Let's bring in Reem Ibrahim, a friend of the show and a campaigner for smokers' rights. Reem.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Reem. Lovely to see you. So, do you think that we should make smoking unaffordable for people? Price it out the market?
Well, the point is that it doesn't work. I mean, anybody that says that the black market doesn't exist is either lying to you or they're completely ignorant to the statistics. Between 2022 and 2024, legal tobacco sales went down by 41%. 41%. Smoking rates haven't really changed in that time. So what do we think is happening? People are going to the black market. Instead of tobacco being sold by a taxed and regulated private sector, it's going into the hands of criminals. Criminal gangs are now producing tobacco products because the taxes are already so high. The fundamental point here is if we actually want people to quit smoking, and they absolutely should because it's really bad for their health, if they want to quit smoking, we allow them to make those choices towards safer and healthier products. The only country that has actually achieved a smoking rate of less than 5%, which is what we define as smoke-free, is Sweden. Not by hiking tobacco taxes, but by allowing adults to choose safer and healthier nicotine products, things like snus, vaping, nicotine pouches. All of these products are more than 95% less harmful than smoking. So if we want to achieve that smoke-free target, we have to allow adults to choose safer and healthier products instead of them going to the criminal gangs.
Geoff, what do you think about minimum pricing for cigarettes? Do you think that that will deter people?
Well, I think we've had that for alcohol in Scotland. I think some of the reports on that's efficacy are mixed. You know, the S&P are great at picking sometimes the one survey that supports what they're saying. Yeah, listen, if you're asking me, would minimum pricing make buying cigarettes legally less appealing? Absolutely, it would. Would that mean people stop buying cigarettes? No.
I mean, yes, it would mean the black market would become more appealing, but it's still going to... Reem, do you think it's still going to have... It's going to have a positive effect because more people are going to be deterred?
No, but they're not. That's the point, right? If you're a smoker, 1/5 of adults are smokers. If you're a smoker and you cannot afford to buy legal tobacco products, we are already seeing smokers go to the black market. Why would you be so silly as to pay the full price, right? If it makes complete economic sense for an individual, if they want to smoke, they're going to find those products in the first place. Now, there's also the really crucial point here. Do we live in a free country? Do we allow adults to choose what they want to do with their own bodies and their own lives and their own choices? The arguments about the healthcare system and the NHS are completely for the birds because that tax revenue is paying more than what smokers already cost the healthcare system. So fundamentally, do we allow adults to make their own choices about their own lives and their own decisions? And I think in a free country,
hang on, I have to go to Yasmin. Reem, I'm sorry, I have to go to Yasmin.
This is nonsense because every adult who smokes affects those around them. Number two, I don't know the extent of how many people would rush to the black marketeer around the corner. They're all waiting, apparently.
Market.
Wait, sorry. You had your say. You let me speak. Okay? And so it's not a question of free choice. None of us in any society can do what we want freely just because we're adults living in a free society. All the time, we have to think about the consequences. And the consequences on children, on families, on family economics, on the NHS are serious.
But it's about where that tipping point comes. I agree that it's always a balance and it's a trade-off, but there has been a lot of tax. We've taken smoking out of various public places. We've made it illegal in certain situations. The question is whether or not that has tipped so far that you can't exactly call it a free society. As I say, I'll say it again, I hate smoking. It's just bizarre to me. No one said, you know, with alcohol, at least people say, oh, we had a great night out, you know, at the pub. No one's had a great night out.
You don't know, someone might have enjoyed their night out smoking. I'd like to hear from Maria in Portsmouth. Maria, what's your take on this?
Right, I grew up with my parents smoking. I have never smoked. But I'm not going to condemn somebody else who is a smoker. The same as I don't condemn somebody else if they want to have a drink of lager or whatever. I don't drink alcohol either. But that's their choice. Who are we to start dictating what other people should be doing or shouldn't be doing because we don't find it acceptable ourselves? That's fine. That's your life and how you live. But let them go out, and if they want to spend some money on cigarettes or alcohol, let them go and do it.
But Maria, it does impact society as a whole. It costs £17 billion in both NHS and wider impact.
Okay.
So we are all paying for it. It does affect everyone. What would you say to that?
So you're going out, having a nice expensive meal in a nice restaurant with all them calories and everything else. That costs the NHS money.
I don't think having a meal equates the same as smoking a packet of cigarettes because...
in the food, the fat content in that food could be putting the weight on you.
Maria, do you approve of the fact that we don't smoke in enclosed spaces anymore? Do you approve of the fact that smoking is no longer allowed in restaurants, cinemas, all those places where people used to, buses, trains?
Me personally, I've never agreed with that. If you're sitting in a restaurant to eat or anything like that, that you should be smoking in there. What I call a closed environment. I've never agreed that you should be smoking in that area. If you're outside and having a cigarette, that's up to you. Or if you're at your own home, that's up to you. But otherwise, in closed environments or in areas, even like a playground area where children are, I also would say no to that area too. But we've got to stop dictating everything to everyone. There are people that grew up with smoking and are addicted to it. Let's get them the help and support they might need, instead of telling people that they can't do this, they can't do that, and then they're going to put the price up so much that people might end up stealing and things like that.
Absolutely,
Think about them consequences.
I think Reem would strongly agree with you that it would it's a bit nanny state. I understand you agree on that point. Bridget in Wiltshire, what's your take on this? Do you think we should be allowed to smoke if we want to smoke?
Well, the thing is, the government needs to make money, and it will make money from cigarettes no matter what to pay for the NHS. But I think that schools should be brought in to have lessons from 12 years old onwards that would show videos of lungs and a family and the results of smoking, and followed by a debate. And then we should also get a separate force within the police to go after the people that are supplying undercover and false cigarettes, etc.
That's really interesting. As far as I'm aware, the government, the tax on cigarettes doesn't cover the cost to the NHS, but that's a really interesting idea. Geoff, what do you think about a kind of special division of police to go after the black market?
The most, not the most glamorous rock and roll division of policing.
What would you call it?
I don't. There's some sort of SWAT team for tobacco at the end. I think that unfortunately the police are already stretched and they have bigger priorities. But it should also be said that a lot of the way this occurs is actually not illegal. People go to other countries on holiday where cigarettes are cheaper.
Duty-free.
They come back and duty-free. They'll buy them on behalf of people that want them. So it's not just the illegal routes, there's other ways of doing it too.
Bridget, I love that idea. That is renegade. And now we've got David from Oxford. David, are you a smoker? Have you ever smoked? Do you feel like we should just be allowed to live our lives and be left alone?
It's difficult. I used to smoke years and years ago, but no more. But the reason I'm speaking to you guys is I buy cigarettes for one of my residents where I live. I live in a retirement complex, and he smokes 40, 60, 80 fags a week. He has nursing care from the hospital because he's got terminal cancer. He still smokes. He's costing the NHS a fortune. He doesn't care. It's an addiction. It's something which...
Do you think if cigarettes were a lot more expensive that situation could have been avoided?
It doesn't seem to matter. He gets cigarettes from abroad. The money doesn't matter. He spends his money, and he has, as I say, he has home care nursing coming in. He just completely disregards. As far as he's concerned, it's his right to smoke, and it's going to smoke.
I think David
even though he's very poor, he's incontinent, it's all sorts of horrible stuff, but he still smokes. Yeah.
So I think David makes a really good point. People who smoke are not just going to stop because people say stop smoking.
Yeah, but this shows it's not a question just about free choice. We see the consequences. He's described them.
Absolutely. I'd like to speak to Gary from Belfast. Gary, what's your experience with smoking?
Smoking has given me lung cancer, my darling, and I'm sorry, but I'm still smoking because I'm 68 years of age. But if you put the prices up, my normal cigarettes are about £19 a packet. But all the sweet chips in Belfast, and I'm sure it's all over Britain, you can buy a cheap packet for £5. And if I take a packet of those for £5, I get a headache, I get a blocked up nose, my chest closes up, and they are absolutely lethal. I would plead to people not to buy the cheap cigarettes. You know, and I rung the police, I've rung customs and excise, I've told them where the shops are, and nobody does anything about it.
Gary, can I ask why you continue to smoke after your diagnosis? Did you...
because I have COPD, and when I lay in bed at night, I stop breathing, and the only thing seems to cure me, I would get up at 3 or 4 in the morning, come down. It's summer now, but the winter is actually worse. But when I come down, a cigarette and a whiskey cures me.
And would an increase in the price of cigarettes, would that have prevented you from smoking earlier previously, do you think?
No, I always said, like I said to an ex-girlfriend, I would stop when I was 30, I would stop when I was 40. I'm now 68, and what's the point in stopping now? Because, I mean, I don't have many years in front of me, but I wish the young people wouldn't smoke. Like, do you remember Guido Ulbrenner, when he died, he pleaded with young people, don't smoke, and that was way back in the 70s or something, wasn't it?
Well, Gary, I think that's a really powerful message, and thank you so much for calling in. And thank you for all of your calls. And thanks to Reem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget...